years, I could see him slowing down. Just gradually.
Right.
He was 79 years old. That's few good. That's quite a few innings. And but still, it's like you hate to lose people that are that have so much good hearts and stuff like that. But he would be down there every Wednesday, and if we didn't have signs, he always had these 8.5 by 11 signs that he'd pull out of his little bag, and he was a poet, He was
Right.
very intelligent.
Right.
He's very much the family man. He did a lot for his family and for his friends. So he not too long ago he said to someone, he got back to me. He described me as an organic communist. Right? An organic communist. I said, what's that? So my friend says, I don't know, but I think it's okay.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Well, when I think, actually, as we're talking about the three of them, one of the things I'm struck by is that every one of them were lifelong activists. And for Ned, he started with the war in Vietnam, and Jim Whitlock as well. I think he was a conscientious objector, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from go, and Bob also was a lifelong activist, and he has a long history. So some people, actually, some people didn't even know that he, which Eve Shippens being his daughter, and Eve is quite the activist herself and very involved community person, very much on the forefront of trying to make change. But, people knew him as him. They didn't know him as Eve's dad, That was, he was an activist in his own right, and he was so involved and so ready to just go out there. Oh, another one he was always at was our no nuclear waste over the Peace Bridge, right? And actually, there's a wonderful series of photos that Bill Jacobson took that we'll put up on the website. I don't think it's up yet, but just wonderful pictures of him, and it's at all those vigils. Every one of them, he was at all of them.
And those photos were taken just within the last couple of years,
Sure.
Yeah. And I had the chance to see Bob. He was not conscious. Was it Sunday? The day that he died.
Right.
He died
this past Sunday.
He died a couple of hours after I and Ken Kirsch stopped by to say goodbye, but he wasn't conscious. And Eve was there, and her sister. I'm not sure of her sister's name. She's from, I think, New Hampshire. I forget. She was kind of. But when I spoke to Eve, I could see she was so emotionally wound up,
Sure. Of course.
But she said things like, she says, "Nope, I'm okay." She said, "I took a shower today, and I'm like ready to go." But something like that, where someone's there and they're dying, it's heartrending,
It is.
It really is. And she's like him. She's a warrior, peace warrior.
Right.
And I was just glad that I was able to get over there to see him.
He was in hospice, so I mean, the one thing
at home.
Was known, and it's nice that he was at home, but it's great that too that people got their chance. Well, not everyone got a chance to say goodbye, but at least that. I always think about this. Once someone told me, death is when the body is not fit to manifest the life force anymore, either through old age, sickness, illness, or accident or something like that. It's just that the body isn't a fit temple for the soul anymore. And that's so anyway. So he had cancer, and that was finally. And actually Ned was he was in hospice also, I believe. Wasn't he?
Might have been, yeah.
I think he was at the
Yeah.
end, and I think he also had a slower way down, although
Yeah.
he was still playing
He did.
golf until
Yeah.
fairly recently.
Right.
That's what I hear. I don't know. Not being a golf person, I wasn't involved in all of that. But and with Jim, it was more of a surprise. He did have some heart issues that had just come recently.
Okay.
He had a heart attack a number of months ago, maybe. I don't know exactly how long ago, I can't think. It might have been 6 months or more ago, a while ago anyway, a while ago. So he knew he was having some heart problems, but it was, it was still more of a surprise. And I had just seen him actually talking about IPN and the listserv for IPN and all that, and it was the day that we had the, what is it, thrift for life clothing thing.
Oh.
And we went to that. Do you remember what I'm talking about, Deidra? Remember the thrift?
Oh, the thrift to fight. Thrift to fight.
Thrift to fight, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went, we were going out to, have a coffee and deal with the IPN listserv.
Yeah.
But then we went and we stopped at Thrift to Fight, and he was already donating.
Oh, my
He was
gosh.
already connecting them up with people at Buff State who might be interested. There was some person who was like fashion oriented that might want to do Thrift to Flight, being where they're getting donations of clothes, and then having people buy them as a way of donating to nonprofits. And they had
Right,
picked the Western New York Peace Center as a place to donate to.
Yeah.
Right. And
But-
I have on Tribute Archive. A few people have left. Can you hear me?
What's that?
Yep.
Yep.
What?
On Tribute Archive, a few people left some messages in regards to Jim.
Uh-huh.
Can you
I
hear?
can't hear it.
Yeah.
Can't hear?
No.
Oh, I don't know what
I don't know.
happened. Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you knocked into
I didn't
something.
do anything.
I don't
Yeah.
know what happened.
So this message is from Cynthia Lehman. She just left a message about 5 hours.
Oh.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Former Peace Center board chair.
Yeah.
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 Oh my
So
gosh.
she says
Yeah.
that she says Jim was a good friend and a dedicated comrade who worked for justice throughout his life. Generous, kind, thoughtful. He had a huge and open heart to all people. His integrity and willingness to put himself on the line and his unending support for his friends were exemplary. His devotion to Bitsy was heartwarming. I will remember many long talks and going to important lectures and events. Rest in power, dear friend. So I just thought that was, just,
Yeah.
it's just so well deserved, of course.
Very sweet. Very glad to have you reading that. Very glad that she, saw that, people want to know right away. That's something funny I've noticed that we all have, that we want to know, and when did it happen is always the question. So, I know, go ahead.
Deirdre, I brought some material with me thinking that maybe the listeners and viewers would like to know what they can do to involve themselves as far as legislation, as far as contacting their congresspeople. And the one thing that's so important at this time is to support the hopefully ongoing negotiations between Iran and the U.S. on the nuclear-free peace agreement. I think that's very important to impress upon our members to contact Congressman Higgins and Congressman Jacobs to support that, together with Senator Gillibrand and Senator Schumer. And a few other things is the blocking of the food that's supposed to go to Yemen by Saudi Arabia. This is very tragic that this is happening, and I think we should persuade those people, those Congress people, to take the pressure off the poor people of Yemen. And of course, we continue to talk about the number of amount of money going towards the defense budget. We just learned just recently that the Biden administration raised the defense budget 4.5% more. Now it's 64.5% that we're giving out of our own taxes for war and for the Defense Department. Look at all the money that we could use on our bridges, on cleaning up our water supply, many other issues that are very, very much important than building up our defense.
Right.
So please, I would encourage people to communicate with Higgins and and our two representatives, and Gillibrand and Schumer.
That's great. I was going to just say that thank you, Wayne, for bringing that up, because one is, in memory of our fallen heroes. These are some of the things that they worked on for over 20 years. Through lobbying, through protests, through supporting other organizations that are doing the same thing. And so, to remember them, be active, be in action, lobby your state senator, your congressperson. We just did that about a month ago, was it, Vicki?
Right.
With action.
Or two.
Talked about those facts. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I said or two. But just recently, just fairly recently. Yep. Yeah.
And we talked to Gillibrand, we talked to Higgins.
Right.
And we talked to Schumer regarding those exact things. So, and of course, they have to be not lobbied once, not twice, but consistently, by different groups, different organizations coming together is even more effective. So, honor our fallen heroes by doing the same thing, by being activists in peace, So I'm so glad you brought that up. And and we, we'll make the same thing before we leave this first hour, the same encouragement for people to do. And we're updating our website, but on our website there are campaigns, and go to our website to help to write letters to your senators and local Congress people, WNYPC.org. So so do anyone have any stories or memories or anything particular that they wanted to when they think about one of these three that comes to mind, or how what they've done affected them, or particular events in the community?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, the one thing I was thinking of, I want to say before really starting on stories or something, but I was just thinking that they were all, I just said they were all lifelong activists. They were all peace activists. They were all really about what you're talking about, the military budget. They were absolutely against that, in every way, shape, and form. Certainly Jim, Ned and Bob all were involved in anti-war activism, and they were mostly all, I would say, also involved in other things as well. So sort of like the Western New York Peace Center, Peace Through Justice at home and abroad. So then we have all these task forces that are about different justice or rights. They're all, every one of them is either some kind of justice thing or some kind of rights, prisoners' rights, or human rights. Economic justice.
Right.
That's just what they call. It's just what they're named. What they happen to be named.
It's beyond physical fighting. Violence is beyond physical fighting. Poverty is violence.
Absolutely.
Not having your human rights to be fed and sheltered, clothed, and access to clean water is violence.
Absolutely. And they were all, every one of them, very clear on that. So they were all active in all those different areas. And I would say, even though there are certain things that they were may be a little more apt to, so say when we were saying that Jim Whitlock, he had been to Israel and Palestine, so he had a particular interest in that part of the world. Or Ned, because I don't even know why, it might have only been because Latin American Solidarity Committee people came to him, and made sure that he helped with LASK being at Damon, but I think of each one of them, had some particular areas, but they were also very game to, if you tapped them on the shoulder about some particular issue that wasn't one they were already working on, they were generally receptive. I mean, Bob went to all the vigils. I don't think there was a vigil that the Western New York Peace Center is doing, and I think we are the specialists when it comes to vigils, not necessarily on, there are other things and lots of things that we do that other groups also do, but nobody has like 4 vigils a week besides us, I think.
For years.
For years. For years. Yes. And Chuck being a king of the vigils also. But I would say that Chuck is a king of the vigils. Charlie Bowman, there's another one. Bill Jacobson, Valerie Niederhofer, definitely. But definitely Bob. Bob was, I can remember so many times when you and Bob might have needed a ride or different things like that. You're out there in the crazy weather, if it was snowing or it was raining or it was, they would still be out there. I was trying to remember, what was the time? There was some time when you were both very late and it was very bad weather or something about a ride. I just remember it as and then you figured it out.
It was very independent.
Right.
And even towards the, in the last few months before he stopped coming down altogether.
Right.
Would offer him a ride with Monica, who's there every week.
Right.
Her brother died there at the jail through medical neglect.
Right.
But say, Bob, Monica's nearby on the way. She'd be glad to give you a ride. No, that's okay. I'd rather take the 3 bus. Number 3 bus. And so he embraces independence in that regard.
Right.
I'm not too proud, so I'll take a ride instead of hobbling along, But yeah, he had a very gentle spirit,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That, and I remember a lot of times afterwards we go for a slice of pizza or something, He'd always try to pay, I said, we got to take turns doing that. I got to still have a couple of dollars, Bob, But I know that he had someone, it wasn't a relative, but someone living in his house who he really used to take care of him. I remember one time I was asking him about this guy, and he would give him money to buy books, and the guy was just he just read all the time, right? And he didn't charge him rent. I think somewhere down the line that got straightened out somewhat because people could take advantage of kindness too,
Sure.
But he would, he's just very kind-hearted and generous with his time and with his finances. He lived right next to the Sportsman Tavern, and on August 21st, Eve, his daughter, wants to have a kind of open house there.
Right.
That's why they planned it. He said he want this was his last party. He wants a party. He doesn't want maudlin, stuff going on. He lived a good life, and
sure did.
Yeah, it's that kind of spirit you have to really respect. I go to bed at night and I say, gee, I hope I make it to the morning. I'm such a chicken, But yeah, he'll be missed,
Oh, boy.
And Jim Whitlock too. For years he was working for other people,
Sure.
having that as a primary concern. Even I remember when he went over there to Gaza to work. I'm saying, wow, this is that's heavy duty stuff. Bringing technology to places where it wasn't, to medical facilities.
Sure.
Sharing that and trying to connect the two conflicting sides,
Right.
I mean, that's holy work,
Well, I want to mention somebody that he was very interested in, Izzeldin Abu Leish, Dr. Izzeldin Abu Leish, who is a Palestinian doctor who lived in Gaza, worked in Jerusalem, and lost 2 daughters to Israeli army violence, bombing or something.
Yeah.
I think bombing. And he wrote a book called I Shall Not Hate. And so Jim bought, and this is very typical Jim, he bought a bunch of these books, and he's giving them out to everyone. And then we talked about having him come here, and it didn't work out. I think, it just wasn't, either financially something that we could figure out right then. But I think of it, and I still think of it, I actually had called Izzeldin a couple of months ago, thinking, again, he said he'd call me back, which he didn't get to. So
Jim knew him?
he didn't know him. He knew of him.
Oh.
And so, it was I don't remember exactly. I don't think he had spoken with him, but he was interested in having the IPN and maybe, Network of Religious Communities and the Western New York Peace Center maybe have him come and talk and have some kind of a listening circle. And actually, it makes me think of the talking piece we did. I mean, we were actually talking about this because it makes me think of Jim so much. He would have loved the talking piece that we did of having 2 young students, one, both from UB, one from UB Hillel, and one from Students for Justice in Palestine. And we had a talking piece, and we talked about the issues over there, and it was as loving and peaceful and difficult, but not, conflictual. It was a real listening and healing type of circle. Not that we were able to fix anything, but we agreed after doing it that we wanted to do some things with their 2 groups together at UB when they go back to school, because it was right before the summer vacation.
Right.
But that would be very typical for Jim, the things that he was interested in. I mean, in fact, anything, I think he did it with the signs when we had the In My America, or In Our America signs, right? He went and bought a whole bunch of the signs, which we were saying, well, they're not for sale, we're just using them for a membership gift, but he wanted to get them and get them to people. So that's what he did, and he did it. It's very, because he was always thinking of others, and even at the end, he had a friend, a special friend, an older woman, and I wonder for her now, because I'm going to bet there's so many people who are missing Jim very much and wish we had one more time and everything. That's going to be somebody who's going to really miss him a lot, because he did a lot for her to keep her happy and comfortable in her living situation. And that was just, again, very, very typical Jim. Just very concerned and loving heart for other people.
As I hear about all 3 of them, I think about what it takes to be a peace activist. And from all 3 of them is so much compassion.
Yes.
And all around kindness. I just keep hearing how kind, they were. And it makes such a huge difference when we're trying to make a change. It doesn't take charisma and all these different things. A lot of people are just quiet warriors. They do what they know to do is right. Consistently.
Right.
Like Chuck is out there every week. In the vigils. Consistently.
Right.
Jim, like I said, I just seen him on paper. I seen him in the emails. What needs to be done? Just getting it done. I never met him in person, but I felt like I knew him because his just like Wayne's, his name was always there.
Right.
Well,
I'm just thinking of another thing he always made sure he would pay, and this is again where, well, what's another expression for feeding two birds with one crumb, or smelling two flowers at the same time, or something. He would always, for the Western New York Peace Center annual dinner, he would always pay for Saxby and Slim to come because it would help them out and it would help the Peace Center out. So that would be very typical Jim. Another thing that makes me think of Jim, when he would talk about, well, if people could just make a phone call a month or something like that.
Sure.
It's just like, ask people for something that they can do. And that slow, steady progress is just chipping away at it and chipping away at it, And Ned is another one. So his, the way he would be with the students or with the events, when we had events, he was just very jovial, very much, just encouraging people to get involved, come and participate. I know, one of the things I've heard about, since I actually, not having been a student, I didn't get invited, but when they had St. Patrick's Day, he would give anybody who showed up, he himself make them an Irish coffee.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So just that generous spirit, Oh, and another thing he did, he was such a scholar. He was frequent writer for the Buffalo News. And he didn't just write, like another voice or a letter to the editor. He wrote featured viewpoints thing. You know how they do in viewpoints, it'll be like half of the op-ed is one long article that they feature, specifically. I was trying to think the last one I saw from him. But anyway, he did that a number of times, and it was because he was such an authority and so expressive. So his written work was so good and very easy to read, not convoluted or
Very
overly
good.
academic, but just reaching people where they are to help them understand what's going on and really analyze the different political factors that are going on.
At the end of Ned's activism, he got involved with LASC, the Latin America Solidarity Committee, and we were very concerned with the development of the maquiladoras down in Mexico. Maquiladoras was an acreage near the border where Mexicans would work for substandard pay and have very little other benefits. And Ned wrote a wonderful article stating all of these issues, that we were just using the Mexican people to manufacture things cheaply. And then from that, he helped develop a caravan which the CEJ, together with LASC, filled with toiletries and took them down to people who worked in the maquiladoras. Towels, soap, toothbrushes, everything. And Ned was very helpful in developing that, and we got good publicity from that. It was very good. Working together with CEJ, brought in the people from labor and things like that. It was very useful.
Right. Yeah. And another thing he did was he was the main arranger for the Bissonnet, I think, that Bissonnet was at Damon. And in fact, we did just have an intern from Damon this past year, but we also, there is a long-standing connection with Damon for the Western New York Peace Center that was really about Ned. It was about him connecting, and also I should say Sharon Benz as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that, we also had World on Your Plate. That was another thing. That was always at Damon. That was excellent. Yeah. And the Bissonnet lectures. So those were two big events a year that were at Damon, besides other incidental, occasional LASC workshops at Damon, other things like that.
Well, he gave LASC the kind of Damon became a home for LASC, right? And for the regular meetings.
Yeah, that's right.
That was big. That gave you, more people to get, to reach. students particularly.
And
Right.
Chuck, the way that, and I think this started maybe with Jim Mang, the former director, brought in priests who were concerned with the deaths in El Salvador, and we developed a medical aid committee, medical aid for El Salvador, and we would send money to people who were injured because of the death squads in El Salvador,
Right.
and that was and
Oh yeah.
Joe Bissonette was so productive in that whole thing. It was just
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Latin American group, you guys have been tremendous over the years with Tom Potts, who actually donated one of his house to
Gave
the
us
Peace
a
Center
building, yes.
Maybe a building. Yeah.
on Genesee and Bailey.
Right.
Yeah, really great folks. I mean, I felt so privileged to
Yeah.
go to the Peace Center as caretaker initially, and then Jim Mann gave me a free hand with doing the prison and jail work, and
sure.
supportive the work against the death penalty and different stuff. And I know if Bob and the others too were in good health, that there would be some involvement with the Attica 50th anniversary
Oh,
of
sure.
the uprising
Absolutely.
coming up next month. It's just right around the corner,
Right.
and hopefully that'll that's coming along. I think gathering a little steam.
Right.
Yeah, we focused on Martin Luther King Park as the venue in the afternoon, and I think some of us are going to go out to the prison earlier in the day to, read off the prisoners' names. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right.
Ned's brother.
I was going to mention him.
Yeah,
I was just thinking about him. Right. Yes.
I didn't
Bill.
know.
Was that Bill?
I stayed at his
Bill
house.
Cuddy, yeah.
I stayed at his house, and I
Oh.
can't remember exactly when, but it was something to do. So he had a prison ministry,
Yeah,
our prison relief work that he
Right.
did in Syracuse. So they did it at the now I can't remember what it was called, but it was sort of a Catholic worker and a prison prison.
Maybe
Yeah.
together with the Syracuse Peace Council
It-
too.
right.
Well,
Co-sponsor,
it
yeah.
was a separate thing. Syracuse
The jail ministry.
jail
Jail
ministry.
ministry.
It
That's
was a
right.
jail
They set up
ministry.
bail funds for to get people out. I mean,
Right.
his brother was Bill Cuddy. He's awesome. He's a
Yeah,
priest,
Bill
right?
Cuddy.
He was a Catholic priest,
Bill.
I think.
Well, not anymore.
No,
Well,
he was married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might be one of the ones that
He
it
got
was. Maybe
married.
he used to be. I think
Yeah.
he's married. So,
Oh, okay.
but it was his house. It was his
Right.
family house, and so I was with somebody. It might have been the time I got arrested. No, I don't. I just can't even remember. But we got there at about 4:00 in the morning. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
Whatever time it was, and they were just just a kind. They weren't having us at the prison ministry thing. We stayed at their actual house. I think Brian Terrell was there. Brian Terrell. And I think that's why it makes me think it was when I was arrested. But that doesn't really make sense. But all I know is, the thing that we've seen about families, too, it doesn't always work, but a lot of times, if there's a spirit of activism and compassion, that truth and love that is in a family, and that concern for the community, it carries through in the family. So in Ned's, for example, that would be an example.
It's in the DNA, right?
Right. In
Yeah, something like that.
Bob's example, we're talking about Eve, what an activist she is.
Right.
Right? So it just happens like that. I mean, I am sure that Bitsy is a wonderful young woman. I know I heard that she's just getting married. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So it's going to be, I'm sure he'll be, it's so hard. So hard. And he loved, he always called himself Bitsy's dad, and even in his obit. And he had this hat he'd wear it all the time that said Bitsy's dad. That was just his main claim to fame to himself.
Wasn't that his custom license plate too? His car?
Oh, yes.
I think,
Yep,
yeah.
also on his
Bitsy's.
car. Yep.
Yeah.
He wasn't like too overboard about it or anything. No.
No.
No, he was,
Yes.
not too important to him. No, absolutely so important to him. So.
Yeah.
While we're winding down,
Sure.
I would like for everyone to kind of go around and maybe mention like one what legacy do you think each one
Sure.
is have left, and how can we honor their legacy now, going forward? Let's start with you, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, to my thinking, Bob was like the quintessential foot soldier in the army for peace. That kind of thing. He wasn't. He led in a quiet way, but he wasn't a leader, so to speak.
Right,
you
right.
know. I just talking to him, in the conversation was always so easy. Just being with him was always easy, and he was a good poet too. He wrote some really good stuff, and I'm gonna miss him. And I'm sure there's quite a few other people who will miss him.
Oh,
and
so
if you
many.
can, try to come. I think Eve would want people who know him to come on August 21st, which
Absolutely.
is to the house. It'd be nice. It'd be good.
And the information is on Eve Shippin's Facebook page, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right, and
Right.
we can post. I think
Yes,
we should
can put
post
that
that.
in the calendar. Yeah.
And I would think another way to honor his legacy is back to talking about these 4 vigils that are going on for the Peace Center, that are the Erie County Holding Center Vigil at 4:00 on every Wednesday, 4 to 5 o'clock, and then Thursday 5 to 6 o'clock at the ICE offices at Chippewa, Delaware, or the Delaware North Building. Stop ICE Terror for immigrant and refugee justice. And the Friday, it's 2 to 3 o'clock at
Peace Bridge.
the Peace Bridge means Bust-I and Vermont, right? They don't really let us on the bridge, but anyway, but on every Friday, they're barring it. They've barricaded it off so people can't get through the gates anymore.
We used to go through the gates to the bathroom, and now they put up a new. They welded on a thing now. You have to crawl under the gate to get in there.
Wow.
But
And then I just want to mention, last but not least, is Women in Black, which was actually my entree into the Peace Center, actually, when I first moved here in 2007, that's at noon to 1 every Saturday. You don't have to be a woman or dress in black, and there are plenty of signs available.
At Bidwell and
Elmwood, Bidwell and Elmwood. Women in Black, which is really against violence in all its forms to people on the planet, the violence of poverty, just long-standing.
And they started with peace for Israel and Palestine.
Yes, it started with that. I was just going to say that.
With.
Yes,
so
that started
all the way back to what all of our 3 that we're talking about, what kind of goes back to what they have been working to started in. I'm sorry, Wayne.
I'd like to say something about Ned, and after his organizational skills in writing, he continued to work to get young men and women back from overseas that maybe were escaping or trying to avoid war and and conflict. He continually wrote President Carter to give amnesty to these young people, and finally it happened. It finally happened, and I think it's because of Ned's hard work and wonderful writing, articulate writing, that this helped in. And people throughout the country did it too. I should say that too. Many people did it. But Ned was right in the forefront in creating a good atmosphere here in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Wow. I think it's wonderful that you are all on to be able to to share your memories and of them and what what they stood for. But these are our pillars along with you all, our living pillars. These are our pillars that we continue to, stand on their shoulders to push on and in the work. Also, we have our Poets for Peace. Speaking of, we who was it? Bob. That was the
especially, yeah.
We have a Poets for Peace August 15th at the Western New York Peace Center. Because guess what? This whole month at 2 to 4 at 1272 Delaware. And this whole month is International Peace Month.
Oh,
wow.
International Peace Month. So we're celebrating, peace and peace activism, and of course, all the different. This month also, Dr. King said a speech, was the walk on, March on Washington happened this month. So a lot of great things occurred this month over the years. And so we want to honor that through poetry and music and just have a good time and connect to our community and be so, and honor our heroes.
And now one other thing I wanted to say for honoring the legacies of starting with Jim or continuing with Jim, is that Jim's real concern with Israel and Palestine, that to try to be do what we can do and be what we can be to try and help build more peace here in Western New York over the topic, as well as actually over there. And so I'm just keep your eyes peeled there to missives from the Western New York Peace Center or from the Interfaith Peace Network that will be, could be a listening circle. It could be listening to Dr. Abu Leish if we get him here, things like that. And then, and also for Ned, that, that fostering of the next generation, which I know the Western New York Peace Center, it's in our DNA. We just had a wonderful Camp Peace Prince and have other plans for other things, fostering the young, that spirit of activism in the young people, which is getting fostered, and helping to give them more tools for all the things that they're very gravely concerned about, as well they should be, and as well we all should be. Those are some more things.
That's right. So did anybody have anything last sharings? Because we are near the end of our first show. And so stay tuned for Talking Peace with the Interfaith Peace Network with Vicki and Chuck.
I think Chuck won't be with us, so it'll be me and Christian Para.
Okay, great. And you're talking about leadership. You want to expound a little bit about what you'll be talking about in building foundations and continue to growing the movement?
Sure. So I think one of the things we'll talk is sort of that, I love it when Cornel West does this too, is that combination between the principles and the spirit and then our personal journeys, how to really realize that. So that goes everything from how do we act and what do we do to, how do we think about things? How do we proceed, individually and collectively. And I think all these people, and I want to thank you so much, everyone, and especially you, Deidra, for leading this discussion, because it really is a thrill to think about these very beloved people in our beloved community. We'll miss them, but they're living on in us, in their legacies, and in our working together.
Yes, they do. So thank you all for being on. I really appreciate this time and for learning about, these people. A lot of them, were new to me, and I was just getting to know them. And so it was an honor for me to be with all of you and to learn, about these pillars in the community. So thank you so very much. And you have been listening to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center. And I'm your host, Deidra EmEl, and we have been discussing our legends, Jim Whitlock and Robert or Bob Murphy and Ned Cuddy. And thank you so much again, Wayne, Chuck, and Vicki. Until next time, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you. Great job,
Thank you, everybody.
Wow.
That kind of flowed nice, right?
It did.
Yeah.
It certainly did. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It is.